Hello, and welcome
Hello.
back to Writing with Subtext with me, Jim Hall,
And
and
me, Diane Moore.
the writer. She's the writer, and I'm the story coach. And together, we're going to write a story together. So the last time we talked was just an introduction of all of us. So if you haven't seen that, make sure you check that out and explain what it is that I do and where Diane's coming from. And we're just gonna go through the process of developing a story from initial idea to a complete structure and how you can use subtext to help do that. So Diane had me read 11,000 words of non-sequential writing that was stream of consciousness, and it's fun. It's fun to read, but getting the thread through it, because it wasn't the whole story either.
No, it wasn't the whole story, but I wouldn't have said it was stream of consciousness. That's an interesting take on it. Ow.
No, I wouldn't take it that way. I meant as opposed to very structured out, this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. When you only get a little bit of the story, right, because it's not the whole story, it's really hard to tell what the meaning of it is. Oh, okay, so then does that make sense as far as when you don't have the complete story, it's hard to tell what the actual meaning of it is. And there's a huge balancing thing where it's like, I know what it is I want to write, but don't really know exactly the structure. And you can either kind of go along with it like a pantser type writer and eventually get to that place, or you're a structuralist and you know everything that you want, and then you work from it from that direction. But
you're a hybrid like me.
Yes. But it's like a merry-go-round, right? Like it's just always writing, rewriting, writing, rewriting.
Yeah.
And so everybody has to do the same thing. It's just like when you're going to jump on the merry-go-round and when you're going to get pushed off. That's just, so if you have a deadline or something, somebody's going to push you off and you have to finish it. But until then, because the structure part is basically just rewriting. So a structuralist just rewrites before they actually write. So it's like they already have these ideas, but then they're like, okay, wait, no, this means this, and this part means that. And then they structure it out, and then they go back to writing.
Okay.
The other type will just write, and then they have a bunch of stuff, and then they look and go, oh, okay, now let me see what it is I have. So nothing's worse than anything else. It's just an appreciation of the fact that there's two different things. You know,
Okay.
there's two different modes, and we're going to jump. So you went and did the writing, so now we're going to move over to a little bit of rewriting and see what we can find out, what kind of story it is that you're writing, because if you want to write something that has meaning to it, right, that has some premise to it, that people feel, oh, wow, this feels like a great story, it feels very complete, then the way you do that is not by following some kind of rote formula that says, oh, this always happens in this place and that. You have to figure out what it is you're trying to say, and then that determines the order of things within acts and scenes and sequences and all that stuff. Because the order of the events and the order that they occur, that sets the story, right? Like that determines the story structure.
Okay.
So unfortunately, when you only have about a fourth of the story, it could go anywhere, because anytime you have 1/4 of anything when it comes to narrative, you can attach anything to it. There's no real sense of what it actually means until at least you have 3 pieces. And of course, it's nice if you have 4 pieces all fit into place. No matter what it is, whatever thing you're looking at, whether theme or character or anything like that, if you just have one part, it can get more difficult. But there are strategies so that we can get to that, so figure it out. So for you, your homework last time was to come up with like 1 sentence, 2 sentence points of view from each character.
Right.
There was, I just want to get clear in my head what it is that you're trying to say, because a lot of people come to me and they have an idea of what it is they want to say, and they, oh, this is my story form. I love Dramatica, it's great. And it's never right, it's always in the wrong place.
Okay.
So we're gonna like step away from all that stuff, because I know you also have a ton of history with Dramatica, so you know it. And so it's just kind of like pretending for a little while that you don't know anything about it, you know?
No, I know it, but I have never conquered it.
Oh, okay. All right, great.
So
Well, no one ever conquers it.
it is my Mount Everest. Come here, baby.
Well, that's great. Well, then after the end of this, I won't say you conquer it because I still
You're still climbing the mountain?
yeah, for sure. And always chasing the understanding, because once you figure out one part, then another part gets lost. That's kind of how everything works. And so it's just being aware of the fact that not everything is going to be present to you at all times. And so that's
Okay.
a little bit of faith comes into it, where it's like, well, I will get to that part and know that eventually that it'll work out. So for the characters, I have, so we have details I don't have answers for, things I know about the story. That's what you're seeing, right?
Yep.
So down here at the bottom, so the last time, yeah, I asked like, okay, well, what are the different points of view? Because when it comes to a story, and I know you've heard this before, but I'm just for the listening audience.
That's okay.
The way a premise works is it's essentially an argument that you're trying to make. You know, if you keep doing this, this thing is going to happen. Or if you know, things might turn out badly for everybody, but it might be great for you if you go and do this. And then what it is that you're trying to say, the thing that you feel is important, is wrapped up in that premise. And
Okay.
the way that you start off building up that premise is knowing where people are coming from, because all it is just conflicting points of view. So a complete story, is just a model of the human mind trying to solve a problem, right? Trying to resolve a problem. And in that context, the only thing that matters, characters don't mean anything, plot doesn't mean anything, theme doesn't mean anything, genre doesn't mean anything. All that matters are the points of view. Like what are the two essential points of view that are competing, and which one wins, right? So that would be the first place where we would start. So for you, who do you want to start out with?
Layla.
Layla, okay. And just as a brief reminder, everybody, she is like how old? Brief little
13.
13, okay. And her point of view is?
Layla believes if you are hurting someone, you are selfish.
You're hurting someone, you are selfish, okay.
And then Ebony believes or hopes that magic can be taken without doing harm.
Okay.
And then Ruben believes in taking care of Ruben.
Okay.
And the Coven of Witches believes that what they're doing is necessary, whether or not it hurts anyone.
To protect the world, right?
Yes.
Okay.
They give you what you needed?
No, but it's good. It's a good start.
Okay.
Because I thought, I mean, it's a good start. I shouldn't say no. I was just trying to be funny. Wasn't Layla's thing like she had an idea of building up the magic, ripening it to a place before taking it away from these?
No, that's Ebony's idea.
Or Ebony's idea. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'm sorry.
That's Ebony's idea of if the magic has never been present in a person and it can be ripened so that the body and the psyche doesn't really know what it is to have it, then if you take it away, it won't be as detrimental as it has been for centuries, as they've been taking the magic away from magical men, basically depresses them. It's kind of like having part of your soul ripped away, and the majority of these men, somewhere in the percentage of like 98%, commit suicide.
Okay.
Or
Yeah.
drink themselves to death, or, you know.
So, for format, is this a young adult novel, or is this?
I really haven't decided where this is going to fall, because the themes are very, very adult, even though my protagonist is young.
Right.
So I don't know where it's going to fall. I've actually had readers tell me both things, that it would be fine as an adult urban fantasy, and that it would also be good. They could see it because of Layla, that they could see it as a young adult. So I don't know where it's going to fall yet.
And by urban fantasy, because I have fantasy stuff, but urban is what? What's the element of urban?
So the model for an urban fantasy as a genre is that it's modern times. It's not, there's magic just like you would have in a regular fantasy, but it's in a modern setting.
Okay, so it's just like a modern fantasy. It's the kind
Yeah.
of okay. And then that'll help gear it. So, and the reason why I asked was, yeah, the suicide and drinking themselves to death are very much more adult themes, but I wanted to know if that was an essential part of your narrative because that personality of your story is an essential part of the structure.
Okay.
So, not that who you're gearing it towards determines act material, but if you are looking in toward, if you want to focus in on stuff like suicide and drinking themselves to death, and that is kind of the essence of what your story is about, it's going to set a different personality to the story rather than a fun Harry Potter, I wish I was a magician sort of thing.
Yeah, no, it isn't light. I don't do light.
Which is totally fine. I love everything. I'm not trying to gear one way or another. Just
Yeah.
trying to get down to what it is that you want. So maybe even like a darker type fantasy too,
Yeah.
kind of. Okay, because that'll give a certain weight to like the kind of thematic stuff that you deal with. It's a little more serious than um, light and frothy magic.
Okay.
So okay, so suicide, and this is like what all the men are dealing with in this world, right?
All the magical men.
All the magical men,
So,
right? Because not everybody has magic, right?
right, and not everybody knows about magic. The majority of the human race is unaware of magic on this scale.
So between Layla, Ebony, Reuben, and Coven, who do you personally, as an author, agree with?
Me personally, as an author, I agree with Layla, actually. If you are intentionally hurting somebody, even if your intentions are good, you're still causing harm. And that's kind of a juxtaposition of the whole idea of magic is do no harm.
By juxtaposition, what do you mean?
Do no harm. There is a tenet in like Wiccan magic that says you can do anything you want as long as you aren't hurting somebody else.
Okay.
And they are very definitely breaking that tenet of magic. They think they're doing it for a good reason, to protect their kind, their world.
And by they, who do you mean?
Magical people. Both men and women, actually, because like I said, even though this is based on a curse, it is that curse was so long ago and nobody knows who laid it, that it has come to be believed that male magicals just cannot handle whatever it is to have aether or mana or whatever within their persons.
But for these characters, who's they? So the Coven is...
Yeah, but the Coven, but magical men too.
Well, I mean, just so I know who's coming from where. So the Coven are doing wrong, right?
Yes, the Coven are doing wrong.
And then Reuben, what's Reuben doing?
Reuben is masquerading as female.
Okay.
So he has been for probably a good 60 years, the majority of his life. When his sister tried to take his magic, and she lost sort of in the magical battle.
But I mean, before like getting into all that backstory stuff,
yeah,
like in this story, what is his point of view? Like, where does he stand on this?
he stands on the side that he is going to take care of him, and to him he does that by he has taken the magic of many, 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 many other young men, and it's all in an effort to protect himself.
Okay.
It's never dawned on him that what he's doing is actually a solution to the problem.
Wait, now I'm lost. That what he's doing? I thought if he's taking care of himself and hurting others.
He is, but because he's okay. So because he's male, when he takes the magic flows back and forth between him and the person he's taking it from.
Okay.
And that is what has kept him from going insane, like should have happened, or having the consequences of having his magic taken, which would be the whole suicide route. So Reuben is actually the solution hiding in plain sight.
And the solution is to, but if he's
Share magic within the magical community, to let magic come and go between people. But if a woman is taking a man's magic and she already wasn't going to have a problem, you can't tell that that's a solution, right? But if a man is taking another man's magic and that shares the male magic between them, and he doesn't run into dire consequences, then that is a solution to what appears to be this problem. And the thing is, nobody's looking at it this way except for Layla is going to. She's the one who's going to figure out that he's male and that he's been hiding in plain sight. And oh yeah, he's not crazy or violent.
Okay, so the solution to everybody's problem is to let magic come and go between people?
Yes, to share it among everybody.
Share it among everybody. Okay. And Reuben is doing that, but he's taking the magic away, though, right, from other people?
Right. He is taking the magic from other men, but that is still a process of sharing. I mean, it's not a nice process, but he's not giving any back. If he actually had given any back, then he might have figured it out.
Right, but if he's specifically taking away, I don't know if that runs counter to the idea of sharing. Sharing in your mind is
If you get a pint of blood,
uh-huh.
Are you sharing blood with the person you got a pint from? Whether or not they still have that pint, or whether or not you give any blood back?
Are you sharing? I know, but then there's probably a, because in my head, the sharing is like a back and forth sort of thing.
Okay. Yes, that is one way to share, and that is actually the ideal way, is to let it go back and forth. But that isn't what happens because nobody recognizes that as the actual solution.
So if we use the blood analogy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he's taking blood from these other men, and you're saying that that is a good thing.
Well, it's a good thing for him. If he were giving it back, if he were letting magic flow between them instead of just taking it, it would be a good thing for the other people too. But that's not what he does, because that's not the mandate from the coven. The mandate from the coven is magical men are dangerous. We take their magic so that they're not dangerous to us or the general population.
Okay, so Reuben is doing wrong then by taking the magic from these men, right?
Yes.
Am I right about that? Okay.
Yes.
Taking the magic from these men. Okay. And the coven's doing the same thing, right?
Well, the coven actually has foisted this job off on a single person, because I think in their heart of hearts they know that it's not the right thing to do. They just don't know what else to do.
Okay.
and it
who's
has
that
it
person?
has literally been this way for centuries.
And who's the person that they put it on?
Well, for the last 60 years, it's been Hepzibah, but Hepzibah has actually been Reuben.
Okay, so Reuben's screwing things up a lot. Okay. Ebony hopes the magic can be taken away without doing harm. Manifests the magic in Psyche, doesn't know. They won't know it's been taken away. Okay, and now so, let's see. Wrong approach. And Ebony's approach, I believe you said was incorrect as well, right?
Yep.
And what's wrong with her?
It's still whether or not the magic has actually had a chance to manifest isn't going to matter. You're still going to be ripping a metaphysical hole in the person you're taking the magic from. So her approach, even though it's never been tried before, is still not one that would work. The thing is that they're using Cozy, this 10-year-old boy, as a guinea pig. So even her approach still isn't going to be the one that's right.
Okay. So then the right approach is Layla.
Layla is going to figure out that Reuben is masquerading as Hepzibah. So here you have a male witch who has been mentally stable, not violent, for 60 years because he has been mixing his magic with the magic of other men. And when she figures that out, she figures out that it's the combining of different magics that creates the stability that kind of counteracts this curse.
Okay, and these are all the players, right?
Yep.
Right away I can see there's still some stuff to be developed that will give a grounding for what the story is about. So these three, it's pretty clear. You take stuff away, you're making stuff worse regardless of what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Layla, I feel like you're saying that she eventually gets to a place where she sees that mixing and trading is the right answer, right?
Yes.
What is her point of view before she reaches that place?
So her point of view is, at first she doesn't know because the entire idea of magic is new to her to begin with.
Okay.
And she doesn't think that you should ever hurt somebody.
Okay.
And very definitely in the scenes with Cozy when he's going through the ripening, he is definitely in a world of hurt. And so she can't fathom that that's actually the right choice. She is also, interestingly, having her magic ripened at the same time because she's in the same proximity to the ripening spell as Cozy is.
Oh, okay.
And one of her best abilities is to see connections between things.
Okay.
And that's where she's going to see that Hepzibah's aura doesn't match what she's supposed to be. So female aura will always have a tint of silver, and male auras will always have a tint of gold.
Okay.
And she is going to see that Hepzibah's alternates between silver and gold. And she's going to figure out that one of them is a front and that the front is actually the Hepzibah persona.
So all that last couple sentences that you were saying, all that stuff, is
Yeah.
all what we would call overall story, which is
Okay.
great. Like that's super clear. I totally get what that's coming from. What I was more interested in is where Layla was as a point of view, because we,
Okay.
as the audience, we're going to take her point of view, and you actually have it. She would never hurt anyone. I mean, that's what sets her apart from everybody else.
She would do, I don't know that she would never hurt anybody. She thinks you would be a bad person or even evil if you hurt somebody, but she would do anything to protect. Well, is that true? Get on this. So she would do anything to protect Cozy because that has been her job basically since she was 6 years old, to protect
Mhm.
her brother.
Okay.
But I think when it comes down to it, she doesn't force it on Ruben. I think she keeps talking until she comes in clear.
So she's this protector of her little brother, right?
Yes.
So in the beginning, would she do something to save him, even if it meant hurting him?
She wouldn't hurt him.
No, I know, but if she could save him, but it would cause him extreme anguish and it would actually hurt him, or not save him, but protect him, would she do that? Or is she the kind of person that's like, there's no way, I love this kid so much, I would never want, I got to figure out a way to do something else that doesn't involve hurting him?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's kind of the conclusion that she comes to is that if you're taking another person down a path of pain that they are not down for,
Mm-hmm.
you're doing it wrong.
Right, but and she's the same feeling at the beginning of the story, maybe not as strongly, but
Yeah.
she still is like, I wouldn't do that. Like Ebony has this crazy idea, and Layla would be like, no, I'm not doing that. There's no way. Like, there's got to be some other way, right? And then that gives her motivation to do all that overall story stuff that you were talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay, so then Layla, you should never hurt someone, can't fathom hurting another. And then at the end of the story, she's leaned into that point of view, right?
Yes.
Leans into the fact or to the belief that, what was the way that you described it that's even stronger? There's no way I would ever, oh, if you're leading somebody down the path towards pain, um,
That they're not willing to face. Because
yeah,
sometimes people are willing to face a great deal of pain to get where they want to be. But the problem is when you drag them down that path rather than, letting them lean on you as you go down that path.
right. Like you shouldn't force anyone to grow, especially if it would hurt them, right? It would hurt them. Does that sound right?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so that's really, really great. So now I have a strong idea of who Layla is, and that part of your premise involves this idea for you yourself that's you should be able to help people out without dragging them through the mud or having them to go through pain that they're not willing to go through. Would that be a fair assumption?
Yep.
Yeah, which is great because a premise is one part, um, I guess, more geared towards the main character, and then the other part is more geared towards kind of the logistical part. So one is like, what's the approach, and then how do you actually, what does that actually result in if you do that? So I'm not sure if I could say nail down exactly what the wording of the premise is right now, but it's really clear to me that Layla's on the right path, which means somebody else will be somebody who is on the wrong path in the beginning and then ends up coming to her point of view.
That'd be Ruben.
And that'll be Ruben. Okay, so then Ruben.
Well, actually, probably be Ruben and Ebony.
Right, I was going to say Ebony. Oh, I mean, I wasn't sure exactly, but so Ruben is doing all this stuff. All right, so you have Reuben, who's actually posing as somebody else, who's working for the Coven and doing all this crazy stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, you're going to have him stop doing that, correct?
Correct.
And at the end, he's going to instead do what?
At the end, he'd probably share his magic with his brother and sister. So with the actual Hepzibah and with Tevel.
Okay. And would it cause him any kind of, what's the consequence of it? Or is there any consequence of him doing that? Or is it just great? Or does he get even more healthier? Or what, what is the...
Yeah, I think he would get mentally healthier because he's been living a lie for 60 years. And to be able to lay down that burden, oh yeah, he's going to be way better off.
Okay.
And plus he gets family back. He's been very much alone for 60 years-ish.
Okay. And then Ebony. So her approach is to kind of fatten them up, get them to a place. She's trying to work this whole thing. And it still doesn't work. How is she working things differently at the end of your story?
That I don't know.
Well,
I haven't given a huge amount of thought to Ebony. I needed someone to have the idea of fattening them up.
Okay. Well, not that there's anything wrong with that, right?
Right.
I mean, with having that idea for that. But I think for now, it's really clear that you have Layla and her point of view, which is equivalent to your point of view, and Reuben, who is going to be the one who is kind of doing things for himself at the beginning and at the end comes to a place where he's like, no, this is, I can't imagine doing this kind of thing. And he actually gets to be with his family and stuff. And so the premise is going to argue, actually, for the sake of this exercise, why don't we leave it there? So it's like, okay, now I have an idea of where Layla's coming from. Don't want to hurt anyone. And then he's going to change over. So let's look at subtext and see what we see. Okay, so this is the dashboard for subtext. This is where you first come in. And the first thing we want to do, this is like all the latest things that have been posted here. Go to build a story. And we're going to look at genre. These are all the different ways that you can build a story. But we're going to start out with the genre of your story, which is urban fantasy / dark fantasy / modern fantasy, right?
Okay.
So it's Sex in the City. That's what your story's all about. Okay. So the first thing would be to do fantasy. And then, so these are all the fantasy films that, and actually there's some novels and some plays here, that are in subtext. Right now there's about 440, and every week I add at least one, if not two. I'm not sure if any of these stand out as being somewhat related. It's like you just scroll through and do you get a feel that any of these kind of fit with what you're going for? And the answer, you don't have, I mean, if the answer is no, that's totally okay as well.
I don't think so.
No? Okay. And then I think you'd said modern, right? Wasn't that? Or modern or urban? I know I don't have urban here. I don't think you would call it paranormal. Psychological. These are all the different genres that are currently in subtext. Do any of these stand out to you as being, I wouldn't quite see, maybe coming of age, but.
Maybe. I have no idea. Do you want to go at it the other way?
Well, just first here, I want to stay with genre just for this episode, and then the next episode we can try and do it a different way.
Okay.
Because I think one of the essential things that you have to nail down is
So it's not modern, definitely, but How to Train Your Dragon might have a similar feel, but where Hiccup starts off after he meets Toothless, he just can't kill him, he can't hurt him, and then he's like trying to get through all the trials without hurting any of the dragons, and ends up convincing his father in the village that the dragons are victims too. That's kind of a similar feel.
Oh, okay. So this is very interesting because I've run into this before. So what you're describing there is very character based, right? It's like he's protecting him and he's going to go through all these trials, and then that's what's going to actually, that's what my story is about. Which you're right. That's totally what Hiccup's all about. It's about protecting and going through all these trials and doing all that stuff. But when you look at genre, what you're looking for is an overall feeling for the kind of story that you're telling. And this is very much like an action adventure-y sort of feel to it.
Okay.
You know, there's dragons, there's a big giant dragon that eats other dragons, and there's Vikings and all this stuff. So far, I don't get that impression from your story.
No.
Nor do I get that in the 11,000 words. I actually think fantasy is great for, you know, maybe the setting of it, but I wonder if maybe there's a different kind of genre that we could look at that might more closely approach the feel for what it is that you're going for. It's not action adventure, horror, superhero, not a musical. Maybe supernatural, maybe paranormal.
I don't know. I don't know how you qualified those. Drama, maybe.
Drama for sure. I'll just go through them first. There's not a whole lot of romance in here. Mystery, maybe, because there's some stuff going on behind the scenes. People are pretending to be people that they're not, right?
Okay.
So there's a bit of a detective element to it, right? Because you're trying to figure out, oh, this is what it's about. Definitely, I see a lot of relationship stuff. I see a lot of psychological stuff, maybe. Somewhat coming of age, family, it feels like there's a little bit.
Yeah.
But the rest is all more information based. So you liked drama, right? I think that's the one that if you had to pick anything, I mean, you're doing this. See, and that's why I was asking suicide, depression,
Yep.
hurting people. I mean, that's very much dramatic, right? So you have drama here. And I would say that's a really great way to understand the feeling of your story now. Now it's like, oh, okay, so I want this feeling of drama here where, not Zootopia, maybe, you know, Dead Poets Society, Glass Menagerie, Me Mama, Cowboy Ida has some elements.
I haven't seen a whole bunch of these, so it's really hard for me to say, oh yeah, that one, because I don't know.
But it's very much about the, well, let's see here. So you have drama here, right? And since and then you could either find a premise here, or you could look first at the trends that are actually of that genre. So if we look at the trends for a drama, we can see these are more dynamic stuff, which are more the story points. But you can see here, this feels like your story, where people's abilities, right, their abilities to do the things that they want to be able to do, like take magic or not take magic, and their desires for sure are the kind of things that are creating all the conflict. Whereas a less percentage of dramas are dealing with the things that you know or your thoughts. You know, it's just because of that, the feeling of the personality of the story that you're trying to tell, the stuff that you're zeroing in on as being important to you as an author, these two are more heavily weighted in that area. So that helps us a lot when it comes to deciding what the actual premise is about, because the premise will center more on abilities and desires than it will more the actual knowing of things or how people are actually thinking, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So back to genres here. And let's see, so if we took drama, and I wonder, actually I'm going to hold off on getting a subgenre for it and just look and see all the premises that are here for drama. So these are all the different premises that are already in subtext that have a dramatic feeling to it. Peace of mind awaits those who stop pursuing, even if it means failing to achieve your goal. That one kind of, sort of might fit. We do know that Layla is on the right path. So this kind of thing where it's about peace of mind awaits those who stop pursuing, she's not really actually changing her mind. She knows that she's on the right path, right?
Right.
So that would be something more along the lines of, let's see if we even have any here. Stop avoiding. Where are?
They're all start, stop, and peace.
Yes.
So not drama. So not drama.
Let me just see the trends here. No, there should be some that aren't.
Because if you look at the main character, it's 62% of them are change.
Right. And what we want is we want a main character who has a steadfast approach.
Right.
Right? Well, another way we could look at it, so at least we know the genre is in the drama area, right? Another way we could look to build out the story is building it off of the premise. And so we have 4 ways that the story could end currently. Triumph, personal tragedy, and tragedy. Definitely no, it's not going to end in tragedy, right?
No.
Personal tragedy,
No.
not really. Personal triumph, not really, because she saves the day, right? Like everything.
Right. Yeah.
So I would definitely say triumph. All right, so here again we have stop holding back, stop trying to validate yourself. These are all about characters or premises where the thing that you're trying to argue is to change, to adopt somebody else's point of view. This is closer to a person that's on the right path. So keep being motivated to attract someone and you can understand each other. That feels like somebody who's on the right path and gets something to work out, but it doesn't feel like your story at all. Keep acting irrational and you can see a future where you rule yourself. Keep resisting criticism and you can win over audiences everywhere. That's closer.
Closer.
Keep continuing something and you can affect progress in the world around you. That's much closer. Keep applauding everyone's efforts and you can find your prince. Not really. Keep being rigid about what you want and you can spark a rebellion. That's closer. Keep being rational and you can fulfill a desire. Keep doing your best work and you can perform at a master level. Keep being reckless and you can stop someone from stealing. No. Keep being reckless and you can achieve anything. Trying to find one.
Keep assessing. Scroll up just a little. Keep assessing what's going on and you can learn a community's secrets.
So that one's interesting because I would have said that would have been something that you would have gravitated towards at the beginning of this episode. But do you still feel like that's what your story is about? Is learning secrets? Or is it about cluing in on what it means to actually hurt someone?
I don't know, because to me, they're very much tied together. Unless she figures out the secrets, she can't see the solution.
But an essential part of drama is not learning secrets. An essential part of drama are the abilities and the desires, right? Like the feelings. That's where the drama part plays into it.
Okay.
So it's not like like a political intrigue or maybe a what would it be? A commentary on political conflicts within different countries throughout the years, like certain eras. If the 50s or the 60s in South America, what kind of things weren't known and how did learning all that stuff actually help resolve their problems? Or that's the essence of it. So there might be some dramatic stuff there, but what's actually being talked about or focused are people's thoughts, like what they're actually thinking. Whereas for your novel, not film, the points of view that we went over were very much about not taking things away from people, not putting people through pain.
Right.
I mean, that's the most important thing, which is closer to heart, like it's closer to feelings. And so it's less about learning and community secrets. That'll be part of it because that's the plot part where she'll figure out all that stuff. But I would say this one, keep showing support for something you love and you can transform your life, is much closer to
Okay.
that it is that you're going for.
Yeah.
Now, there might be ways to adjust this, and as you know, there's ways that this will be able to be adjusted, which we'll go over in the next episode, so that you're not locked into this specific storytelling here. But at least that feeling of it, that keep doing this thing, you know, for either someone you love or keep loving her, you know, in that, and then you can help transform, basically change the way that people deal with magic and how they actually go about.
So you're not limited in the storytelling of these premises to what they say. You can change that so it's, you know, keep showing support for someone that you love and you can transform the world.
Yes, and that's what we're going to work on next time.
Yay.
So yeah, so I don't have any homework for you for next week,
Okay.
unless I come up with something in the interim in the next day or two. But for right now, I would maybe check out some of those dramas that you saw.
Which one goes with
Actually,
this
let me
particular
do this. So
premise?
if I do keep showing support for someone you love, okay.
Shall we dance?
So this premise, keep showing support for something you love and you can transform your life, is taken from the film Shall We Dance? Shall We Dance? And I'm sure you haven't seen it, right?
I don't think so.
If you did, it was a long time ago. That would be
Yeah.
your homework assignment, is to watch this.
Okay.
And how this premise is a part of that, and to get a feeling for what that's like. You know, the personality of the story. Obviously, your characters aren't dancing, but there is magic involved, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there is how people relate to one another. And go and get the feeling for that. And then when you come back next week, we'll start building your story off of this premise and make it more personal. We'll personalize this premise so that it's closer to what it is that you actually want to say. And from this, you can instantly build a story. All you do is click this button and your whole story is built for you. But I want to make sure you get a feeling for this and see. I think you're going to be really happy with this. See how it fits in with the kind of story that you're telling.
Okay.
Sound good?
Sounds awesome. I will
Excellent.
watch that.
And then I will see you next time on Writing with Subtext.
Bye.
Bye.